Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something about strength. Real strength, it don't always shout. It don't always come with fireworks and confetti. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like smiling when your heart is tired. Sometimes it's walking away like you're already healed, even when you're still stitching yourself back together inside. Silence is often misunderstood in today's world. People think if you're quiet, you're weak, you're hurt, you're broken. But the truth is, silence can be one of the loudest expressions of strength. It takes strength to sit in a room full of noise and not react. It takes strength to be misunderstood and still choose not to defend yourself. When you choose silence, you're not giving up, you're rising above. You're showing the world that you no longer feel the need to explain, to prove, or to chase. You're no longer entertaining confusion, no longer negotiating your worth. You're simply existing in a space of calm, knowing that what's meant for you won't have to be begged for. There's a kind of power in silence that people don't expect. When you go quiet after giving someone everything, they start to hear the echo of your absence. They start to remember the sound of your laughter, the comfort of your voice, the warmth of your presence. They start to realize that silence isn't empty, it's full of the weight of everything they took for granted. While they sit with their memories, you sit with your peace. And in that peace, you begin to rebuild yourself in ways that noise never allowed you to. Most people chase noise. They want closure. They want to speak their mind. They want to be heard, validated, understood. But silence is choosing to let the storm pass without stepping into the middle of it. It's choosing to walk away from battles that drain your spirit. It's a choice to prioritize your healing even when your heart wants to scream. That's real strength. Not in how loud you respond, but in how gracefully you choose not to. In silence, you find yourself. You start to hear your own thoughts again. You start to separate your truth from the lies they fed you. Learning, evolving. They're sitting with a version of you that no longer exists. They're reliving conversations, replaying moments, and trying to fill the void you left behind. And the beautiful thing about that void is it echoes louder than any goodbye ever could. You owe no one explanations for your healing, not the people who left, not the ones who stayed confused, and especially not the ones who only reached out when they noticed your silence. Healing is personal. It's messy, unpredictable, and deeply sacred. No one walks in your shoes. No one knows what broke you in the quiet moments when no one was watching. So no one gets to question how you pick up your pieces or how long it takes you to do so. You're not obligated to make your pain digestible or your process understandable for anyone else. Some people expect access to your journey just because they once had access to your heart. But that part of your life is closed. You don't have to explain why you stopped answering, why you don't return calls, or why you walked away with your head high. Growth isn't always loud and dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it looks like disappearing from everything that once drained you. And sometimes it looks like smiling in places where you once cried. That's your healing, and nobody else gets to narrate it for you. You're allowed to change without warning. You're allowed to go silent. You're allowed to set boundaries that weren't there before. The people who truly care will respect your space. The ones who don't were never really there for your healing to begin with. They were just comfortable with your pain as long as it kept you accessible. You don't owe them closure, an explanation, or a final message. You owe yourself peace, clarity, and the space to breathe without constantly being pulled back into what broke you. Healing doesn't always come with pretty answers or poetic justifications. Sometimes it's ugly. It's choosing yourself every day when your heart still wants to look back. It's resisting the urge to revisit conversations that will never bring peace. It's deleting numbers you memorized, letting go of voices you once craved, and learning how to live without the chaos you thought was love. And no one gets to question that process unless they've lived it with you. There will always be people who feel entitled to your healing journey. You will always be people who feel entitled to your healing journey. They want to know what changed, why you're not the same, why you pulled away. But the truth is, they weren't paying attention when you were breaking. They didn't notice when you started slipping, when your smile faded, when your silence became your safety. They only noticed the transformation because they were blind to the pain. And that's not your burden to carry anymore. Your healing is not a performance. It's not a public broadcast for validation. It's yours. It's stitched into your late night prayers, your silent mornings, and the strength you muster to get up every day and keep going. It comes from within, not from others. It's one of the hardest truths to accept, but also one of the most freeing. So many people wait for that final conversation, that apology, that explanation they believe will make everything make sense. But the reality is, the people who hurt you the most are rarely the ones who give you peace. They're the ones who leave you with questions, silence, confusion, and the heavy weight of unfinished endings. And if you keep waiting for them to give you closure, you'll stay trapped in a story that's already over. Real closure isn't about hearing the words, "I'm sorry," or understanding why someone did what they did. It's about reaching a point where you no longer need to know. It's about letting go of the need for answers and choosing to move forward without them. Because sometimes the closure you're seeking will never come from their mouth. It will come from your decision to stop reopening a door that only leads to pain. It will come from your choice to walk away, not because they explain themselves, but because you finally understand that your peace is more important than their presence. The truth is, people leave in ways that hurt. They ghost, they lie, they betray, they disappear. And in those moments you feel powerless, you feel like you're left holding pieces that weren't even yours to fix. But healing begins when you stop searching for a why and start choosing yourself anyway. It begins when you realize that closure is not something someone gives you, it's something you create. It's a quiet conversation you have with yourself where you decide that you are done begging for clarity from people who never valued your truth. Closure looks like unfollowing in silence, like not replying to that text that comes in weeks too late, like sitting in your room and finally accepting that it wasn't love, it was attachment, it was habit, it was hope, and even though it broke you, it taught you something. It taught you what you deserve, what you won't tolerate, and how to stand again after falling so hard. That lesson, that strength, that decision to continue even when your heart is still sore, that is closure. There is freedom in letting go without understanding everything. There is power in choosing to heal without a final chapter written by someone else, because you can spend your whole life chasing answers, or you can spend it building a new story, one where you are the author, not the victim, one where you get to decide that not every pain needs a neat conclusion, not every loss deserves your energy, and not every goodbye needs to be mutual. Some doors you have to close yourself, not because someone asked you to, but because your soul is tired of waiting for something that might never come. And in that choice, in that brave moment of walking away without everything tied up in a bow, you find the kind of closure that no one else can give you. Your glow up is the loudest response. It's not about revenge, not about proving anyone wrong. It's about proving yourself right. You experience life so much. It's better to be bold and lost to yourself. You're more alive than almost anything else. Your glow up is the loudest response. It's not about not being able to prove someone wrong. It's about proving yourself right. Your skill, your courage. It's about waking up one day and realizing that you don't have to stay broken just because someone else couldn't see your worth. You don't have to sit in sadness or wait to be noticed. You shift your focus, elevate your mindset, and rebuild the pieces of yourself that got chipped away in the process of loving someone who wasn't ready for you. That's where the glow up begins, not in spite, but in strength.